We're in the Stopwatch suite at Brands Hatch, and I've got Derek Redmond with me, who absolutely loves sport. You love watching it, but you've also done quite a bit yourself, haven't you, Derek? What have you done?
Okay, yes. So obviously, athletics-wise, been a British champion, European champion, Commonwealth champion, world champion. Played basketball for England. Almost had an international at rugby as well. But stepping aside from that, obviously got into.
Stop you. That's a bit greedy, isn't it? That is a bit greedy.
I'm just one of these guys that can never do anything as a hobby. So as you well know, if I get into a sport, I get into it. Jumping with 2 feet. Motorbike-wise, I learned to ride a bike in 2006. In 2007, did my first track day. Ended up doing, I think, about 7 track days in 2007. And then in 2008, I did 47 track days. Went to the Ron Haslam Race School, California Superbike School, and then entered my first race in 2008.
And so for you, what's the big difference between being an athlete, where it's almost completely you, and then being on a bike? What are the essential differences in both mindset and the gear that you've got?
I mean, you'd be surprising as an athlete, you're actually not on your own. I had a team of 12 people that were experts in their own field that helped me do what I do on the track. And it's very similar to, obviously, racing in a motorcycle team. The one major difference is obviously that bit of equipment between your legs, that motorbike, because that can have a mind of its own. It can do its own thing, and you can prepare and get everything right, and something mechanical can go wrong. So to a certain degree, you're not in control as you are as an athlete. Having said that, you can actually pick up an injury, which obviously I've done once or twice in my career, but it's very much of a similar, to me, mindset between the two sports. I had a group of people around me that would take care of me. I had a group of people around me that would take care of me and the bike. But there comes a point when you get out on the track, whether it's an athletics track or a race track, where you've got to go and do what you do.
How much of a distraction can it be from success, in that you're worried that perhaps your bike, that machinery may go wrong, or that something physical about your body might go wrong?
I personally think I worried more about it on a bike, of the bike going wrong, than I did with something physical going wrong on me in athletics. Part of the reason, there's more moving parts. The thing is, if you pick up an injury in athletics, you're feeling it yourself, and you can kind of make allowances for that. So if you have got a bit of a tight hamstring, you can ease up a little bit if you are feeling soreness or whatever. Whereas on a motorcycle, to a certain degree, you can feel what's happening in the tyres and the front. But if something's going on mechanically, it goes, and you personally don't have any, control over that. Hopefully, you can control that you don't come a cropper. So I used to worry more about my bike mechanically failing than I did about me failing in any sort of race.
I think absolutely that makes sense. Now, there is that one famous video clip which we were talking about earlier that's had over nearly 1.5 million views, is it?
It's had 109 million views, the last one that was put on Facebook last year. But there's lots of different versions of it on YouTube, and I don't know them.
I would think that all the versions put together are probably 250 million.
It could be. It could very well be, yeah. I think 249 million of those are my mum.
I remember what impressed me when we first spoke about that, probably about 5-6 years ago, was that you said that when you fell to the floor and grabbed your leg, you then afterwards looked up and still thought you could win the race. To anyone listening would think, how is that possible? What's working in your head there?
Well, and I always say this, I think, to win any title, to win a competition, you've got to be physically in shape and also mentally in shape. And although my hamstring went obviously down the back straight, mentally I was still in shape. And it was the first 4 to qualify to go through to the final. Yeah. I knew if I was in shape, I would have won the semi-final. I was in perfect shape to do that. So in my head, if I could have got up and still carried on running, I could finish in the top 4, even if it was 4th, and make the final. And I'll worry about, after I've made the final, worry about the injury and how severe it is. But, you got to be in it to win it, as they say. So I honestly felt that if I got up and started running, I'd make the final. That was clear as day to me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that is the mark of a champion.
I think it's the mark of someone who's physically and mentally in shape, or in my case, mentally in shape, because I certainly wasn't physically in shape. And that, yes, can be the mark of a champion. So I think it's in stages. You've got to be focused, mentally in shape, and know what you're going to do. We were talking earlier on about people who kind of talk themselves out of winning or competing well. One of the things I used to do a lot of was visualization, and I'd visualize myself winning that race in lane 1, in lane 2, in lane 7, in lane 8, in wind, in rain, in snow, and I would do that over and over and over and over again in my mind, years leading out to something like an Olympic Games. So by the time it comes to that race, whatever unfolded, you'd already run that race in your head somewhere. Yes. Yeah. You've got it in your memory bank. You don't need to panic because you know what the outcome's, because every one of those races, I won. Yeah. So you kind of run it in your mind. So.
And when you run that movie in your head, is it like in full HD with surround sound and all the emotions? Do you actually add that to it, or is it more visual than anything else?
It's visual, and you run it kind of at normal speed in your head, and I'd know the feeling, the sound, the smell of the track, my breathing, my footsteps, the athlete's footsteps. You'd hear all that and feel all that. So yes, I guess it is in full HD.
And I guess your heart rate, when you're actually sat there running it through in your head, your heart rate will pick up as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to visualize, chilling out, lying down, driving, in my mind, whenever I had time to myself, I would visualize myself winning these races, whether I be breaking the world record, winning an Olympic title, whatever it was, over and over and over and over. And it's just something, most people daydreamed. I used to visualize about winning races.
Quite impressive. Now, let's go on to motorsport. You've co-owned and run a British Superbike team for a few years, and I think we first met in 2011, and we looked after you for a few years here at Brands Hatch, and you've been up to our suite a few times. Tell us about the view from the suite here at Brands Hatch.
Well, I think the first thing is it's in a prime position. We've had opportunities to have other boxes along here. You've been absolutely great, as you say, from 2011. So I think part of it was your hospitality. And I remember the first year we came here, and I remember speaking to you and said, "Look, we've only got this as a budget, and you made it work," which was really great. But the view is, you're literally on the start-finish line. If they're using the Indy circuit, the Indy circuit, you can pretty much see every part of the circuit. The only bit you miss is when they go behind the garages for, maybe 5 seconds. I've brought a friend of mine along, and he's brought his son, and he's absolutely loved it. You can see everything that's going on. You provide binoculars, which is again, attention to detail. So it's the best view in this circuit to be in. If you're going to watch a race from somewhere, this is the place to watch it. 100%. You can't get a better view from here. Watching the guys going to Paddock Hill Bend every time, you're like, "Oh, is he going to get him?" It's just great.
And you know what it's like.
I do, yeah.
Because I've been round in a car, but going round on a bike is a different thing altogether.
Yeah, I've been round a couple of times. I've crashed round at Paddock Hill, so I've joined the Paddock Hill Club. And it's, And I can tell you now, that gravel is deep. It's a lot deeper than, my bike just parked there, and it was, the front wheel was pretty much covered. But it's a beautiful corner. It's an iconic corner for this circuit. And what a place to watch it from, being up here in the Stopwatch suite.
Right. Derek Redmond, thank you very much for talking to us today.
My pleasure.
Good to see you. Hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Derek Redmond.